Good evening and welcome to our webinar. My name is Pam Merkel and I'm the Coordinator of Information Technology here at the Advocacy Center. I'm here this evening with Laura Arrington and Jenny Hutkowski, our presenters, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Welcome, Laura and Jenny.
Hi, Pam. Thank you. Hi, I'm Laura Arrington, and I am a parent education specialist here at the Advocacy Center.
And I'm Jenny Hutkowski, and I'm the Parent Center Coordinator here at the Advocacy Center.
Thanks. I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping at the beginning here before I turn the microphone over to Laura and Jenny for the formal part of the presentation. In case any of you are new to Gotowebinar, I will be showing you some screenshots on how to use your questions pane. Tonight's presentation will be between 30 and 45 minutes. As I said, we're going to use the questions pane for you to participate by posing questions for the presenters. We also are going to have some polling questions that will allow you to interact. And just a little reminder that following the webinar, you'll be getting an email with a link to a SurveyMonkey, and we would like you to please give us some honest feedback about your webinar experience. Okay, as I promised, here is a screenshot that shows you your Gotowebinar Viewer up here in the upper right-hand corner. If your webinar control panel is collapsed, you'll need to use the red arrow to expand that. Once you've expanded it, you should see something that looks sort of like this, and there'll be a section for questions. If that is collapsed, click the plus sign to expand it, and then you'll go ahead and type your questions in that pane and click the send button. This screenshot has the send button grayed out, but once you start to type something, that will become active. If you need to change your audio from microphone and speakers that are connected to your computer to a telephone, you would go into the audio portion of the control panel and click the telephone radio button. And once you do that, a telephone number will appear and you'll have to enter a PIN number to get the audio via your telephone. Okay. We're going to do a couple polling questions just to get a flavor for who's in the audience this evening. So let me bring those up right now. Okay. Our first polling question is looking at whether or not the attendees are parents or professionals. So if you could please indicate which category you fall into, that would be terrific. Okay, it looks like we have some who are both, because I'm getting a total that's more than 100%. Okay, everybody has voted, so let me share those results. Oops, hang on. Sorry about that. All right, we have 3/4 of our audience falls into the parent category, and half of the audience are also professionals in addition to being parents. So let me take a look at let's hide those results. And our next polling question, for those of you who are parents, could you please let us know what age categories your children fall into? And if you have kids in multiple age ranges, go ahead and mark those as well. Mark those accordingly. Okay, we have the votes coming in. All right, let me close that and share those results. So 25% of our audience have young children, birth to 5. We have 25% of our audience have children in the 6 to 12 age range, and 25% of our audience in the over 21 age range. Okay, let me hide that, and we'll do one more polling question. And this is to find out what kind of supports and services your children in school are currently receiving. Do you have a child who has an IEP, who has a 504 plan, gets some sort of classroom supports, or none of the above? Okay, that's interesting. Let me share those results. We have 50% of the audience has a child who has an IEP, and 50% are currently receiving no services. So, alrighty, let me hide those. And I am now going to turn the microphone and controls over to Jenny.
Okay, and I'm going to bring this presentation up. Okay, Laura, and you are going to,
I'll get started.
You're going to start.
Sure. Okay. So the purpose behind today's training is we really believe that parents are the experts in their children, and having parents participate in school meetings is actually a very important aspect of effective home school collaboration. We believe that when parents are actively involved and participating, that students do better. So one of the purposes of today's training is to talk about how to effectively work with schools and participate, as well as understanding what types of meetings we have, because again, going through school, there's all different kinds of meetings, and we want to help kind of gain a better understanding of what those are. Okay? So why are we here? We're here because the goal is really the success of your child at school. When parents are involved, children do better in schools, and schools do better having parents involved. It's always that back and forth. I always like to think that educators bring their strong knowledge of education and curriculum, but parents, when they come to the table, they bring something no one else can. And that is, again, the expertise in their child that they can share with the school. Okay. So just to get a better sense of where everyone's at, do you always understand the purpose of your school meetings, or, we're trying to look and see, or do you ever struggle with that? So, yes, no, or sometimes I know why I'm having a school meeting.
I'm just waiting for the results to come in. Oh, okay. Let me share those results then. We have 25% of our audience, yes, always knows the purpose of their meetings, and 75% sometimes know. So.
And that's great. That's why I'm so glad that you're here today, because hopefully we can help give you some information and some tools to maybe better understand what type of meeting you're having, why you're having these meetings, what they're really truly about. So thank you for that information. Okay. So there can be several types of meetings that you're having. One can be parent-teacher conferences. If you have students who are in elementary school, you tend to have 1 or 2 a year. Again, as your kids tend to get a little bit older, middle and high school, they seem to get few and far between, and parents tend to be the ones to ask more. Can we meet? Can we talk with the teacher? Then you can have something called a team meeting. And this could be any type of meeting. It could be for if you have a son or daughter that has an IEP or even a 504 plan. So maybe they're getting supports and services through special education, or there is something new here in New York State called Response to Intervention, and it's for students who don't have an IEP or a 504 plan, and they're getting building level supports. So maybe they're just getting taken out briefly for reading support for 30 minutes a day to just get a little extra support. Another type of meeting is called a 504 plan meeting, okay, and that's for students who may not maybe need support or instruction from a special education teacher, but they may need some accommodations and modifications. So you could meet and make plans for what would be on that 504. Another type of meeting called the CSE, or Committee on Special Education. If you live outside of New York State, that would also be called an IEP meeting. But this meeting could be several different things. It could be a meeting to determine if your son or daughter fits the needs and eligibility to receive supports and services from the Committee on Special Education. It could be to increase or decrease their supports that they're receiving. It could be an annual review meeting. If your son or daughter has an IEP, they're required by law to meet once a year and review those supports or services. Or sometimes even just the team of people who support your son or daughter may need to meet and ask how it's going. The one thing that I always want you to walk away with, if the school is calling you to meet, ask what type of meeting you're having. Call the teacher. Why are we having this meeting? What's going on? We want you to be prepared and maybe have a better understanding of what's going on so you can plan as well. Okay. So when you're having a meeting, the best way to partner with the school is, if you know what type of meeting it is, you might want to think about, are there any documents that I need to review? Do I need to look at my son or daughter's report card, or maybe I've been looking at their homework and I'm kind of concerned about something. So when you come to these things, you would want to write down any questions or concerns you may be having when you start to work with the school or you're planning for that meeting. You may want to prioritize your son or daughter's needs. And when we start to talk about that, what we mean is it's good to know how many different types of things your son or daughter may need. Do you have enough time to address that in this meeting? So maybe you're very concerned about your son or daughter's reading level, but you're also concerned about spelling, and maybe you're concerned about some other issues going on. We would ask you, in this time, what is your #1 concern for today? You want to set realistic goals for the meeting, what can be accomplished. Again, if you only have 20 minutes and you have an hour's worth of information, do you need to set up a meeting, or do you just not have enough time and you need to change 20 minutes to an hour? So it's always good to find out how long you have to meet. Again, if there's things that they're going to talk about at the meeting, such as maybe how they're doing in school, and you don't have the most recent copy of a report card, call, talk to the teacher, talk to someone at the school, get a copy of that. That's always a great thing to do. Okay. So how to partner with your child's school? Well, when you have concerns about what's going on with your child, it's always good to ask what types of programs and services are available in schools. And it's okay to ask. I always find the best way to find out information is to ask other parents, because sometimes they tend to know. If you have questions or concerns about the type of classroom your son or daughter is in, and you're looking for a classroom that maybe is more restrictive, maybe smaller, I would always say, go and look and see if you can view those programs. See if you can look at those, view those classrooms. Those are very important things to be able to see. Maybe if your son or daughter has some sensory issues and maybe they don't quite qualify for an occupational therapy, but does the school do like a little moving and grooving, or do they do a social skills group? Do they do a lunch bunch for kids who are new to the school and they can get to know each other better by having, during lunch, bringing a small group of people, of kids together. So again, ask. It never hurts to ask. We always say that here. Okay. So what to avoid when you go to a meeting? The first thing I'm going to say is overwhelming information. If things are going on with your child and you've collected a lot of information, or maybe you've gotten a really great book, maybe your son or daughter has been diagnosed with, I would say, ADHD, and you want to bring it and you want to share it with the teacher, it's really hard for people right at that meeting to read a book or a 10-page report. So you would want to get any information that you think may take a long time to read to them prior to the meeting. It's very, very important. So bringing lengthy material is, we always say, do it before the meeting. Also, what we say is talking about the past. And the reason why we say that is when you have something that's going on with your child right now, we can't go back and fix what happened, but you can, at that meeting, change things. You can change what's going to happen tomorrow. It's okay to talk about why you were brought here. So we have something called the 90-10 rule. You can spend 10 minutes talking about the past, but the rest of the time talking about what you're going to do and how you're going to fix it. Okay? Don't bring surprises to the meeting. It's always good. If you're going to bring someone, or someone from outside, or a friend or a relative, I always say it's always a great courtesy to just let them know you're bringing someone else in for support. If something isn't going well and, for example, you want to bring an attorney, it's always best practice to let the school know and let them to know why, because maybe you can work things out beforehand. Okay? And now I'm going to turn it over to Jenny.
And I'm going to talk a little bit about something else that can get in the way, which is what do you do when your buttons get pushed? So we've got a couple examples here of things that you might hear at a meeting that might set you off. These might be okay for you, and you might have your own. We're going to give you a chance in a minute to talk about some of the ones that you have. So one of them is, he's just not trying hard enough. Or, oh, she knows what she's doing. You need to get him to sleep earlier. Or, have you considered putting him on medicine? So these are things that can set us off, and what I really like to stress is that being aware of what's going to set you off is really important, because typically what happens when we get set off, so they say one of these things, our buttons have gotten pushed, and now we're sitting there thinking, I can't believe he just said that. I can't believe they just said that. They're saying I'm a bad parent. Well, whatever else is happening in that meeting, we're not now paying attention to. But if I'm aware that that button has been pushed, and I can sort of go, okay, I'm going to take a sip of water, take a deep breath, and I'm going to get back into this meeting. Sometimes it may be necessary to say, you know what, I found that really offensive when you said that, so that you can move on. But the most important thing is that you be able to stay engaged in that meeting, because you're there because you have concerns about your child. And so if you're stuck in that sort of button pushing mode, then you're probably not reacting. So we're going to go on now. Oh, and I didn't click through these. Sorry about that. We're going to go on now to a polling question. So use your questions pane to share some of the things that push your buttons, and Pam is going to read any of them that you send in.
We'll give people a few minutes. Sometimes it can take a little while to compose in that little bitty questions pane and then click send. So go ahead and give us some of the ideas of things that perhaps get in your way when you're trying to have a meeting on behalf of your child, and people say things that take you down a path you'd rather not go down.
Laura, do you have one?
I know this is probably funny, but what pushes my buttons is when I'm at a meeting and they don't call me Mrs. Arrington or Laura, they call me Mom. That pushes my buttons, because I'm like, I'm Laura, I'm Mrs. Arrington. So that was kind of one that always pushes mine. How about you, Jenny?
Mine is because my daughter has a pain disorder, and I agree, it sounds unbelievable that a child could be in pain for no good reason, but when people say, really, she's in pain because she doesn't look like it, except that I just told you she is. So let's just start there. So those little things that, I've learned to just say, it is unbelievable. And I have a now response. I have a sort of canned response. I say, you know what, it is unbelievable. You're right. And yet she is, so what are we, how can we support her? So I've kind of found a way to bring it back to the focus, which is, what do we need to do?
And I can remember having professionals say, oh, children develop at different rates, and let's just wait and see how this plays out. We'll give the child time to sort of catch up. And if a parent is expressing concern and thinks that there's a need to be investigating it, I think that we need to honor that. So, okay, we have one that has come in from one of our participants. Lori says, when the team talks over me when I'm trying to talk.
Oh, that is a good one. That is a good one. And I think that's one of the ones that probably you have to address, because breathing deeply is probably not going to solve that one. So I think that's one of those where you might need to stand up for yourself and say, excuse me, but there's something I really feel is important for me to share, and I'd really appreciate it if you could listen, and then I'll listen to what you have to say. So it'll show that you're willing to do the give and take, but that they need to do their part.
Mm-hmm. And Erin shares what pushes her buttons is when the team members do not acknowledge her concerns, the concerns that she's expressed, and they rush through the meeting with that, and sort of, I'm guessing, sort of brush past what she's talked about or whatever her concerns have been.
And I think one of the things that can help with that, and Laura talked about having that prioritized list, but letting them know that, you know, I want to make sure that we address these concerns, and if this meeting is not the place, then can we come back at another time and meet about how we're going to address these, but these are really important to me. So just make sure that they know that you're somehow looking to address these, and hear also what they're saying. You know, what are they saying in school regarding that same concern?
Okay, I'm not seeing any more coming in right now, but feel free to add, if something pops up that you want to share, you could just label it as pushes my buttons and then tell us what it is, and we can add that. We'll contribute that later on. So I think if you want to move on to the next slide, Jenny,
Okay.
I think we're ready to go.
Okay.